guys. Looks like I am live on a new format, and this whole video, seriously, is just an excuse to test this out, see if I can figure this out. Come into the 2020s and live in the now and stuff. Keep up with what's going on with other YouTubers a little bit because things are changing, and I'm still waiting to see the fallout of Koopa, even though we haven't heard a whole lot about it actually since it started January 1st. But I'm still kind of skeptical, so I figure, hey, let's try a few things. Now, I don't have the high def camera. I haven't played around with the microphone on this format yet, but it looks pretty simple. Much more simple than the OBS and a few other things that I've tried. Not saying that they're difficult, but anyway, what we have here is that I'm one of those people that's invested here with Legion of Superheroes. And with the Legion of Superheroes, I go all the way back to the 70s. It was one of the main books that I was buying in the early 80s off the newsstand. When people were really going crazy for X-Men and Teen Titans, I had my Legion, my Avengers, and my Justice League, right? And I've lived through a lot of reboots and stuff. And the thing about the Legion of Superheroes is that it really is different than any other comic, any other team book, if you will, because for a certain extent, where it's always set 1,000 years in the future, it is a world of its own, and it has a ton of characters that could easily be overwhelming. But that's actually the coolness of it. So as you're growing up with a kid and the whole idea of hanging out with your friends who end up just sort of also being superheroes, and it really didn't overdo it so much on the drama, and then you had the futuristic technology. One of the little cool things that I saw when I was reading the Legion, probably in the early 80s and stuff, is that they actually still played Dungeons and Dragons, except it was up on a screen with big holograms as you played it and stuff, and it'd only be like in the background, like in a rec room or something in the clubhouse. But anyway, the whole deal with the Legion is one of the reasons it has survived for so long, yet not really taken off to a certain extent. It's had its moments in the sun, don't get me wrong, but it's sort of like a lot of people will be like, hey, it's the Legion, and they'll come over here and DC will do something to push the book a little bit. Or back in the 2000s, they had a Saturday morning cartoon, which I never thought in the world I would see. Little things like that. They popped up in the Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, Bruce Timm Justice League universe there a few times. They popped up on Smallville a little bit. Anytime the Legion popped up, is really good. And one of the things I've always heard about it is that once a creator gets on there, there's always something about writing the Legion or working on that book that sort of haunts them to where they sort of want to go back, but it's definitely got a niche audience. I personally do know people who have been reading and collecting and sticking around with the Legion, even when they have, really sort of got out of the comic books. They kept up with it. They since the 60s and the 70s. Okay, I'm one of those guys, late 70s maybe. One of my first comic book I bought with my money with my own money was a Superboy and Legion of Superheroes. But I do know people that's been around since the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, and a majority of the people I know we really stuck with it since the 80s. So it's always had an audience. That's the whole deal. The Legion always has an audience, and I've got to say it. I'm one of those people that if with this particular reboot, I feel like Brian Michael Bendis. I'm not going to talk about him personally. Looking at the work, I feel like his strong suit is actually crime comics of some sort. I'm a broke record on this channel saying that. He writes crime and detectives, and in that genre, it's awesome. But I checked out the Legion of Superheroes 2-issue miniseries Millennium. I did a review of one of them. Feel like I got trolled in the second issue, maybe a little bit. Is there meant to be an advert taking up most of the screen? Hopefully, well, that's what I was getting ready to say. I'm checking out a new format here. I'm actually trying to screen share. And what we have here is a little review of the Legion of Superheroes jumping in there. Terry, I'm just letting you know this is like a test video. This video is just to see how this is going to look on the screen and the screen sharing and everything like that. See if it's worth doing. I want to get into what's there because once I switch the screens to what I want to read here, I can't see it. Okay, but anyway, with the Legion of Superheroes, what I was saying is that it has a set audience. There are Bendis fans, but I think his coming to DC as being a huge bust. And somewhere on the line, I think actual comic book shops have said that, don't quote me on this, like I said, I'm doing this from the hip to check it out, is that seriously due to a lack of competition, lack of, I think the perfect storm has hit to where people who came in comic book shops actually picked up the Legion of Superheroes. And like I said, I feel like that is because the Legion has its fans. It's a niche group. It's kept fans. There's people who will buy Legion stuff because they really want a regular Legion book out and for the thing to get back on track. This book really hasn't been on track since going into the 90s with all the reboots and things. They got their act together when Jeff Johns got into it in the late 2000s. And if there's ever a Legion book I want to hand somebody to introduce them to the team, it's going to be the Jeff Johns, George Perez miniseries, Legion of Three Worlds, which is phenomenal, right? But anyway, getting on to this, I don't know anybody that's buying the book. I don't know anybody that's talking about the book, right? Even online, it's real quiet because you can easily find Legion of Superhero fans on Twitter and certain groups and stuff. They've always been there. But we get into this here, but I found this really odd because this actually seems to be a real review from Bleeding Cool of all places, right? Of number 3. I have I'm not getting this book, even though I do want a Legion book because the 2-issue miniseries Millennium, Legion of Superheroes that led into this was horrible, yet it had great art. And I feel like that is a strength of the book, is that this thing looks good. But we get into, and this really surprised me because this is one of the few reviews I saw somebody sort of have the same take on it I did without really like burning the book down. But the good news is that they're talking about the art, the color palette, the lighting effect, the line work. It's all gorgeous, which is, I agree. I know Ryan Sook had something to do with it, which was fantastic. I don't know if he's doing the actual book still on issue 3. But the Legion book hasn't looked this good since the Wade Kidston reboot period, taken from us far too soon. Mark Wade and Barry Kidston came in and did a reboot of the Legion in the 2000s that was horrible. It was so horrible. I mean, it was really bad. And eventually they turned it into Supergirl and Legion of Superheroes, and they brought Jim Shooter in to turn around and save the book. And he actually just kind of turned it back into the 80s book. It was very interesting what they did. But anyway, so the art is fantastic, yet we get into here, and what I'm seeing here is that we get into this typical crap that just makes zero sense. The Legion has a rich sense of history. Their fans have stuck around for so long that a lot of these characters are living, breathing people that didn't need this reboot, the aesthetics and stuff. But we get in here where Ultra Boy deals with problems on his home world. Cosmic Boy is dating Shadow Lass, which makes no sense because some of the greatest love. You had like 4 main couples in the Legion of Superheroes, right? You had Colossal Boy and Shrinking Violet, which was interesting, and that moved on. You had Monael and Shadow Lass, and then you had who was Ultra Boy with? Ultra Boy and Phantom Girl. Things like that. So him mixing it up here makes no sense. And Cosmic Boy was with Night Girl, which was amazing. You getting ready to leave? Okay. You want me to put you on the internet? You sure? You're smiling like you do. We have a guest here. I'm going to flip it around on her. No, bye. Love you. So getting back to this and stuff, right? So they're saying there's all kinds of stuff going on here with the characters and stuff, and I'm like, it sounds like it's like this teenage angst that's going nowhere. I'm not sure what he's trying to do. It doesn't seem to really have a real direction. And then there's this strange bit about Robin. Apparently, they pulled Superboy and Robin from the past to put them in here for a little bit, so that makes no sense. And they're going after Aquaman's trident, from what I can tell, or they were thinking about it. But this guy says that the plot, such as it is super messy, which is exactly, oh, Tim, you're sitting here trying to talk and review a book that you don't buy and stuff. Well, it's because my prediction seems to be coming true, at least with this review. It was going to be a mess. Bendis's work lately has been the "I told you so" writer. People want to give Bendis a chance, and they've read some of his stuff for whatever reason. But every time they get a book of his, they're like, "Oh God!" and somebody's like, "I told you so." But apparently, the plot is a mess. Likewise, for all the power they bring to bear, the Legion don't really, he says don't, I'm not going to correct his grammar, don't really seem to know what the heck they're doing. They're not exactly incompetent, but they could hardly be described as competent either. Maybe that's where Bendis is trying to come at it like they're kids. Maybe he's trying to act like the team's young or something, which is we're no, still no reason. And it's all very weird. Likewise, everything with Rose and Thorn, which made no sense from the last few issues, is completely ignored. So there's stuff that didn't matter. Overall, the book fell down too much to be good, but it's far too pretty and bright to be bad. That's the only way to take it. And he gave his rating as MEH, meh. Okay, so pretty much what I thought. This thing was going to go into obscurity between the art being fantastic, which I'm on board for. Um, the art was beautiful. That's why I haven't got rid of the books. The art is beautiful, which is great, as it should be. I just wish the standard of art could go across other books and stuff that I've seen out there. And like I said, Bendis does have his fans, but the Legion has its niche group. Back in the '80s, if John Byrne got onto a book, they had what they called burn victims. And I've seen different numbers on who the burn victims were, but no matter what happened, John Byrne had a following and he would get 25,000, and I've heard up to 35,000 instant increase in sales just because Byrne was on a book and they would stay. When Byrne left a book, those victims would go with them. That's kind of how the Legion is. But the thing about it is that Legion fans will support a book and they will, if it's not a good reboot, they will start dropping it because they're like, this isn't Legion. They'll say what it is. Oh, what's got going up here? We got Scott Neely in here. Cold up there? Yes, very cold. 19 degrees all day long. I went out today to get 2 tires changed, to put 2 new tires on it. That was quite the experience. Debating going on anywhere? No, real supportive. I know what you're talking about, Scott. I'm assuming you're talking about Richmond with the rally going up there to support the Second Amendment. Strangely enough, I saw 2 of my friends yesterday. We discussed what was going on. And I'll tell you what, with what's going on, it feels a little silly to be talking about comic books and stuff. But we ended up having an elderly gentleman come up to us, have a nice little talk with us. He's actually he was on his way to the rally. He informed us about what was going on. People from Texas, uh, tons of other states of people going up there. They're well aware of Antifa going on. And we had such a good talk that when we went to pay, all 3 of us went to pay for our lunches that we were getting. He had paid it on his way out. So we got a free lunch. And, it's going to be interesting to see what goes on there. The cover of Legion of the Superheroes #3 is awful. The eyes are wonky on Superboy and John. Scott Neely says he needs to read the issues. Scott Neely is all over this. John Byrne is awesome. I wish he was doing this line. 33 here, too cold for me. Right. Oh, okay, I got you. I'm not going to get into it. I thought you knew, Scott. But anyway, thanks for we got some people in here. Thanks for popping in on a Monday. I hope everybody's enjoying their holiday. Hopefully you're off work and stuff. And I'm going to go back, look at this video, see if I'm happy with this format, and we can go on from there, man. So thanks a lot, guys. If this format is on there, I will take requests for topics and stick them in the comments section if you want. And maybe this channel can be a little bit more now. What we got here, Dave Enrique. I love this, man. Every time it's a power mouth stream because right about when I'm over, it's when everybody shows up and we get some comments. So we'll stick in here for a minute. Shouldn't the quintessential teen angst book have no direction? Shouldn't it take a long time to find its direction? Well, not if it's the Legion. If you are doing in my opinion, that's just the whole idea. The Legion already has a huge identity. If you're going to change the book that much from what the Legion has with its history and its rich history, especially for the fan base that's very loyal, why not start up a whole new team? I said back when I did talking about the millennial books that came out, my whole thing was that there were some beautiful designs there that would have sucked me in, that could have been and should have been their own brand new character. You know what I mean? They could have had a whole new team, a whole new direction, and had a whole new identity. The thing that I'm seeing with this, and I can tell, is that all these stories could be interchangeable with a whole new team. I mean, I think you can actually go through the book, take out all the Legion references in the art, and make it a whole new team, and you'd have a whole new book. And that's what I think they should have done. So it's not that I'm against storytelling and angst and then finding a direction. It's that these aren't the characters to do that with. I'm off, clean the house, and the dump is closed. So yeah, I did that yesterday. So let me know what you think about the new format in the comments when this thing uploads or whatever you want to do. I'm gonna go back, look at it, see if I'm happy, and possibly do a lot more with this format now on here. Okay, guys, thanks a lot. Be excellent to each other.